Hey everyone, Alexis Garcia with PJTV here in St. Louis for the Smart Girl Summit. Look who I found, Andrew Breitbart. So we have kind of this intricate game of tennis going on in Congress right now with the debt ceiling vote. What do you think of the media narrative going on that labels the conservative wing of the GOP as holding America hostage over these negotiations?
It's just a very bizarre but predictable pattern that we've seen, not just from the left and the Democratic Party, which tried to portray the Tea Party in the worst possible light in 2009 and 2010. This is tens of millions of Americans who swayed an entire midterm election. And the Democratic Party figured out that it's so grassroots and it's so not centrally organized that it could hurl accusations at it and there would be no central organizing force that could defend against the accusations that it was racist or sexist or homophobic, which is an absurd accusation to hurl at 10 million people who are simply saying that they want an accountable government and they want limited government and they want a government that spends money wisely and doesn't overspend money and lives within its means. It's an absurd thing, but because it's disorganized, because it's not centrally located, because it's ground up, the left was able to take advantage of that structural deficiency and exploit it and attack it. And the lack of an effective, pointed response created the perception that it was an admission of guilt. And right now what the Republican Party is doing is it's taking advantage of the same structural problems within the Tea Party. It's tens of millions of people who are asking for responsibility in government. And anyone that paid attention to the Tea Party back in 2009 and 2010, they were saying the Democratic Party's upset with the Tea Party because of Obamacare, but they're going to be more upset after Obamacare. The Republican Party is going to be more upset with them because they're going to hold Republicans responsible for the values that they claimed to hold and for the values that got them elected in the first place. And so the Republicans have been threatened greatly by the Tea Party. There are people like Bob Bennett who were expected to get elected back into the Senate. It's a fait accompli for guys in the Senate who have been there forever. And in that particular case, or with Sharon Angle, or you know, any number of upstart Tea Party candidates have come in there to say we're not here to represent the party for the sake of the party. So what you're seeing right now is that the Tea Party represents an existential threat to the political establishment writ large, and it's predictable yet still offensive that the American people who want responsible government are being maligned in the worst possible way.
Now, you mentioned that the Tea Party is threatening the Republican establishment, but a lot of these Tea Party candidates have been talking about the debt ceiling for months now. The president just seemed to get interested within the last couple months. I mean, what do you make of President Obama's response to all that? I mean, is he just having a complete meltdown?
Well, I think that he's involved in election year tactics right now of trying to put this on the Republicans and trying to put media focus on the Republicans to see what are you going to do now. And I think that that's exactly what has been happening for the last few weeks, because if you can get the media, which has a natural disposition to dislike the Republican Party, to focus on Boehner, to focus on the Republican Party, for them to say these are cruel people that are trying to take away checks away from the American people, that benefits Barack Obama's narrative going into 2012. But, two can play poker, and right now the ball's in his court, the ball's in the Democratic Party's court, because Boehner passed this bill. And right now, the Democratic Party not only has not passed a budget in the last few years, which shows that they've abdicated their responsibility to govern. Right now, what are they going to do now that Boehner has given them something that is a compromise?
Now, finally, we're here at the summit. We've seen what the media has done to Sarah Palin and now Michelle Bachmann, who's rising. What is it about conservative women that the media just can't accept?
Well, I call it the Democrat media complex, and this is why I am a defender of black conservatives, why I'm a defender of minority conservatives, why I'm a defender of gay conservatives, is that the Democratic Party has created over the last 40 or 50 years a culturally Marxist structural, setup in which instead of America being e pluribus unum, where we're just a melting pot, they separate people into black and Hispanic and gay, and then they manipulate. They give them things, and then they pit the groups against each other, and it's fundamentally un-American. And so the women's movement, the Democratic Party likes to think that it is the women's movement. It isn't the women's movement. Phyllis Schlafly proved that 35 years ago, and Palin and Bachmann represent vital leadership. The Tea Party is run mostly by women, and it's an existential threat to the Democratic Party, because when they had Geraldine Ferraro as the first vice presidential candidate, you saw her on the cover of magazines. This is historical. They treated Geraldine Ferraro the same way they treated Barack Obama, but they don't treat Michelle Bachmann, Sarah Palin, Alan West, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley, all of these people, women and minorities who are Republicans, are sellouts to the cause, according to the mainstream media, Democrat media complex academic narrative. And it is such a threat to that multicultural, politically correct, cultural Marxist model that the Democratic Party uses in order to get elected. And if you break that matrix, the Democratic Party is over.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.